Under a sky split by lightning, a billionaire in a cape stands bound by a golden rope that makes lies impossible. A voice in the dark asks a simple question. What is your name? The man who once answered to boardrooms, shareholders, and socialites does not say Bruce Wayne. He looks into the abyss and answers with the only truth that still feels real. Batman. In that moment, you see it. Not a costume, not a disguise. A man who has allowed the mask to devour the civilian beneath it. The lasso doesn't reveal his birth certificate. It reveals his soul. And once you understand that, you have to ask a disturbing question. How many so-called heroes would do the exact same thing? The Lasso of Truth is often treated like a perfect lie detector, a magical polygraph that cares only about objective facts. But that's not really how it works. It doesn't just force you to recite legal names and measurable data. It compels you to speak the truth as you understand it, your beliefs, your identity, your private mythology about who you really are. Ask a father his name while his child is in danger, and he might truthfully say, "I'm their dad." Ask a soldier on the battlefield, and you might get a rank, not a birth name. Ask a man who has spent decades in the shadows, letting Bruce Wayne slowly wither away, and you get Batman. Not because the world thinks so, but because he does. That is the unsettling power of the question. Not what is written on your ID, but who are you? Some heroes are easy to classify. There are beings who never had a human name to begin with. Primal forces like the Hulk, or elemental entities that only adopted civilian covers as afterthoughts. There are sorcerers and performers, whose stage names are their real names. And there are the tragic cases. People who were once human, once ordinary, but whose civilian selves were so broken, so burned away that only the mask remains. This is the world we're stepping into. Not a catalog of code names, but a psychological autopsy of identity. When the magic rope tightens, when there's no room left for convenient lies, who would stand in the light and let their hero name be the only answer? Batman is the clearest example because his story is built on a funeral that never ended. Bruce Wayne died in an alley with his parents. The rest of his life is just the ritual that followed. The cape, the cowl, the mission, the vow. All of it builds toward a single conclusion. The person inside the suit no longer sees himself as a billionaire playing at heroism. He is the Bat. Anything else is camouflage. He is not alone. Some heroes adopt their new identities so completely that their birth names feel like ghosts. Think about figures like Wolverine. For long stretches of his life, Logan and Wolverine are not two different identities. The claws, the feral instincts, the pain, those are not a costume. They are his baseline reality. There are times when, if forced to choose, he would reject the fragile, human name given to him and cling to the one that defines how he survives. The same is true for those who armor themselves in trauma. The Punisher is not simply a vigilante alter ego of a man named Frank Castle. In his own mind, Frank died with his family. What came back from that park, from that massacre, is something else. A singular, relentless purpose in human shape. Under any magic that demands honesty, the answer wouldn't be Frank. The answer would be the name that describes the only thing left. A punishing force. Then there are the ones for whom the hero name becomes an act of rejection, almost like shedding a dead skin. Mutants are especially powerful examples. Some of them adopt their chosen names. Wolverine, Storm, Beast, Magneto. Not just as costumes, but as declarations. For certain mutants, the human birth name belongs to a life that ended the day their powers and persecution began. Using that old name on them is not respectful. It feels like dragging them back into a grave they already crawled out of. In that sense, the hero name functions a lot like a chosen name in our world. Using it is an affirmation. Refusing it feels like an act of erasure. Magneto is the clearest embodiment of this. Whatever you call his birth identity, Max, Eric, that human name is a reminder of a world that tried to annihilate him. He forged Magneto out of genocide and rage. It is not a mask, it is a political statement. A scar turned into a banner. If you wrapped a lasso around him and demanded, "Who are you?" he would not reach for a discarded human label. He would answer with the name that holds all his pain and purpose in one word. Even characters who still sometimes use their civilian names can slip into this second, deeper self. Laura, once known by a code rather than a name, X-23, spent years being treated like literal property. For her, X-23 or Wolverine, depending on the era, is not just a hero title. It is the identity she chose to reclaim her story. Others in the mutant community oscillate between worlds. Sometimes they're Scott, or Jean, or Hank. Sometimes they are Cyclops, Phoenix, Beast. But for those who embrace their mutant identity as their primary truth, the hero name is not branding. It is survival. On the mystical end of the spectrum, some heroes never really had a separate Clark Kent stage at all. Wonder Woman, especially in her earliest incarnations, is a striking case. Her human alias is something she takes on, borrowed from another woman's identity. It's a cover, nothing more. Her true self, the one raised among Amazons, forged in divine conflict, has always been Wonder Woman. If the lasso that she herself wields were turned on her, it would only echo the name she already carries with complete conviction. And then there is the dark, uncompromising image of a man in a trench coat and inkblot mask. To that vigilante, the mask is not a disguise. It is his face. The day he put it on, he decided that the frightened, abused human being beneath it no longer existed. He would insist that he is his mask, that his old name is meaningless. Even stripped of that mask, even reduced to a vulnerable human body, he remains the persona he created. The costume is not the performance. The costume is the person. These are the heroes and anti-heroes whose relationship with their hero identity is not playful, not symbolic, but total. The lasso wouldn't peel the mask off. It would reveal that there is nothing beneath it but more of the same. But identity becomes much stranger when one body holds more than one mind. The Hulk is often described as a separate being sharing real estate with Bruce Banner. In that framework, asking, "What is your name?" under a truth-forcing artifact would give you a very simple answer depending on who's in the driver's seat. Banner is Banner. Hulk is Hulk. The scientist and the monster are not aliases. They are two different people. Labeling Hulk as Bruce's hero name misses the point. Hulk is his own name. Moon Knight pushes this even further. His fractured mind, multiple identities, and divine connection create a mess where the question, "Who are you?" could produce radically different, yet equally honest, answers. One persona might insist on a civilian identity, another on the name of the masked vigilante, another on the mantle of a god's fist. The lasso, in such a case, would not be sorting truth from lies. It would be trying to grab one thread out of a whole knot of conflicting selves. Then you have the magical hosts who literally become something else when they don the power. The helmet of a certain sorcerer does not just give someone powers, it fuses them with an ancient entity. Sometimes they operate as a composite mind. Sometimes the human is reduced to a passenger. In those moments, the hero name is not a role. It's the label for the merged being. Ask that entity who it is, and the human name might not even register. Other supernatural avatars follow the same pattern. Spirit of vengeance riders, divine wrath given human shape, cosmic judges in trench coats. All of them can reach a point where the mortal host is no longer the primary identity. The hero name is the name of the thing they have become, the thing that will still exist long after the original human would have died. Under any truth-binding magic, they are not going to introduce themselves with something as small as a birth certificate. Identity gets even weirder when the transformation is physical and psychological. Consider a creature of the green, born of plants but laden with the memories of a dead human scientist. For a long time, it believes it is that man, that it simply mutated. Later, it learns the horrifying truth. The man died, and the plant being merely absorbed his memories. Yet memory is powerful. By the time that revelation arrives, the creature feels those human experiences as its own. Ask it, under compulsion, "Who are you?" And there's a real argument that it could still answer with the human name. Not because that's objectively correct, but because that's the story it has internalized as its identity. The symbiotic bond between a human and an alien parasite raises similar questions. Alone, neither of their names is the one the world fears. Together, they speak with one voice. We are Venom. Under a truth-forcing rope, you're not interrogating the human or the symbiote separately. You're dealing with the merged being that sees itself as a plural singularity. Its real name in that state is the one it uses to describe the pair. The hero, or antihero, identity, is literally the fusion. Then there is Firestorm, a hero who is explicitly two people combined into one entity. In that form, they are neither of their separate human identities. They are a third thing, a composite. When asked to state their name as that fused hero, it would be perfectly honest to answer with the name of the nuclear entity. Because at that moment, that is the only identity that truly exists. Meta-aware characters complicate this even more. There are mercenaries in red suits who not only know they're fictional, but can interact with the very structure of the story. Speech bubbles, panels, health bars. Their sense of identity is layered: human name, mercenary alias, and the awareness that they are, in some strange way, a performance for an audience. At times, that meta-awareness is treated as insanity. At others, it's a superpower, under a lasso that enforces their personal truth. They might not say their legal name or their code name first. They might lean into the role they believe defines them most in that moment. Whether that's their mercenary title or a joke answer, that disturbingly is still honest. Some cases are inversions of the normal pattern. There are clone heroes who began their lives known only by their connection to a larger symbol, a Superman, without a real last name, who then gain a civilian identity later and come to truly value it. For them, the journey goes from "I am the symbol" to "I am this person my adoptive family helped me become." Under a truth-binding artifact, they might now give the civilian name because that is the identity they fought to own. In every one of these examples, the core issue isn't power level, costume, or origin. It's the story the character tells themselves about who they are when the world isn't looking. The moment you force that story to the surface, you find out whether the hero name is something they wear or something they are. Not every hero plays the dual identity game. Some never separate mask from self at all. And that creates a very different relationship with their names. Take the God of Thunder. In most modern interpretations, he doesn't bother with a human alias. He strides into rooms as the person he has always been. His hero name isn't a costume title. It's just his given name. When you ask who he is, there's no tension between civilian and superhuman. He answers with the same word he's used for centuries. The distinction that matters to us, human name versus hero name, simply doesn't apply. The same is true for certain magicians and occult detectives. Their stage names are their real names. A sorcerer, Supreme, who calls himself Dr. Strange, for example, blurs the line between professional title and mystic identity. To him, Doctor is not a superhero prefix. It's part of who he has always been. A magician whose posters and contracts use her first name as branding doesn't stop being that person when she's blasting demons on another plane. For them, the Lasso's question is almost boring. The answer is the same whether they're on a stage, in a hospital, or fighting in a cosmic war. Then you have the industrialist in red and gold armor. At first glance, he seems like a classic dual identity case. Billionaire genius by day, armored hero by night. But over time, something changes. He removes the mask at a press conference and announces to the world, "I am Iron Man." That declaration isn't just PR, it's an internal shift. From that moment onward, the hero name and the civilian identity fuse. He doesn't think of Iron Man as a separate persona anyone could wear. He sees the armor and the man as one continuous self. Under any truth-binding magic, he could answer with either his legal name or his hero name, and still be completely honest. Because in his mind, they're the same thing. Contrast that with a soldier draped in a flag. His identity is built around a role, Captain America, that he believes should be bigger than himself. Yes, he carries the shield, but he genuinely feels that someone else with the right heart and conviction could wield that identity as well. He is Steve, a man trying to live up to an ideal. He doesn't cling to Captain America as his only name. The symbol is what matters, not the person. So under a lasso, he might be far more likely to introduce himself as Steve Rogers, even if the world screams the other name when they see him. Elementals and androids further complicate the idea of a civilian name. A living tornado, a synthezoid, a demon rhymer. These beings often gain human covers as a courtesy to the world around them, not because they were born with them. Their true sense of self is tied to their hero identity. The undercover name is just a coat they put on to walk among mortals. If forced to be honest, they would most likely discard the alias without a second thought and speak the name that corresponds to the way they experience existence. Across all of these examples, one pattern emerges. The Lasso of Truth does not care what would go on a passport. It does not enforce the bureaucracy of identity. It forces the character to choose which name feels like me when all masks, literal and metaphorical, are stripped away. For some, that is the hero name. For others, it is the human name. For a few, it is something in between. A shared identity, a composite, a declaration that we exist where once there was only I. In the end, the question, who would say their hero name under the Lasso of Truth, is less about costumes and more about existential fractures. The lasso doesn't reveal secret files. It reveals allegiance. Do you belong to the life you were born into, or the one you built in the ashes? Are you still the frightened child in the alley? Or are you the knight that child created to keep anyone else from suffering the same fate? For some characters, the answer is clean. The god who never needed an alias. The sorcerer whose business card and mystical title are the same. The performers and mages whose stage names are simply their real names in larger letters. The lasso circles them, tightens, and they answer without conflict. For others, the answer is a battlefield. Mutants who reject their birth names as relics of a world that tried to erase them. Vigilantes who insist that their civilian selves died the day their families were taken from them. Broken men in masks who despise their government name so much that they speak only in the identity they forged from hatred and trauma. For them, the hero name is not an affectation. It is the only life they recognize as real. Then there are the shared souls, the fused entities, the avatars of gods and spirits. Ask the Hulk who he is, and you will not get Bruce's name. Ask a fire-fused nuclear hero, and you will not get the two humans trapped inside. Ask a symbiote and its host, and you might hear a plural voice declare a single, terrifying name. Their truth is not about individuality at all. Their hero name is the label for an existence that simply cannot be reduced to a single human identity anymore. And finally, there are those in the middle, people like the armored industrialist or the friendly neighborhood hero, who wrestle with the tension between who I was and who I became. At times they cling to their human names. At others, they pull on a mask, look at what they've done, and whisper to themselves, "This is who I am now." If you caught them under the lasso at the right or wrong moment, the answer might change. That instability itself is the most human truth of all. In a universe of capes and code names, the lasso forces a brutal clarity. The name that comes out is not always the one written on a file. It's the one etched into the character's psyche by trauma, duty, power, or choice. Some heroes were always themselves. Some killed their old selves to become something new. Some are haunted by both at once. So the next time you see a mask on the page or the screen, ask yourself, is that just something they put on to hide? Or is it the only face they have left? Now, I want to hear from you. Which hero do you think would tell the lasso their mask name first? And why?